The film program at Johnson County Community College is a relatively new program, but an exciting way to learn writing, cameras, and teamwork.
So our Film and Media Studies 100 class is a lecture class, sort of shotgun approach to learning just about film in general. And then we have Film and Media Studies 200, which continues with that kind of criticism in film and film theory, but doing it in a studio environment. So students start working with DSLR cameras and Rode mics, and they're all individual projects for that class. So truly an opportunity for students to express themselves and have their vision. And then the Film and Media Studies 275 class is Intro to Production, and that class is more advanced work, and they actually work more like how you think of it in industry. They work as a team. They're making larger, longer, more complicated documentaries and narratives. They're also working with a lot more professional kind of gear.
FMS 275 is a lot different compared to FMS 200. FMS 200 takes a whole lot more of a educational stance to filmmaking, whereas FMS 275 you really get hands-on and you really start to work with higher level equipment and you begin to work in an industry standard.
Moonchild, roll 8, scene 12, take 1.
They vote on what type of assignments they want. I mean, obviously, I'm teaching all of the course objectives in that class, but the course objectives are things like creating a narrative, creating a documentary, learning these particular kinds of skills. So with this class, though, they get to dictate the specifics of how those learning objectives end up running. So the class right now, and in each one of those classes, part of the fun of teaching it is that every time I teach it, because I let the students vote and kind of determine a lot of the courses, it gets taught completely different with each group. So the class right now is working on a long narrative project. Every time I introduce a new technical thing, they'll have a mini project that they do in order to learn that skill of whatever I just taught or demoed, the equipment that I just demoed. But in addition to that, they're working on a narrative that they started at the very beginning of the semester, and they're going to be finishing it for the final. So a student wrote the script, which is called Moonchild, and they went all through the pre-production work of like storyboarding and planning it out and auditioning actors. And then they have been in production. They're starting to wrap up production and actually shooting it now.
The FMS 275 course is working on a project called Moonchild, a feature film written, directed, and produced by JCCC students.
And didn't really pick up until about last year when I was in FMS 200. And then I tried to do that as my final project, but it didn't really pan out, kind of unrealistically so. It's like a 20-plus page script. So it was kind of unrealistic of me to believe that I could do that as my final project. But now, in FMS 275, I am fortunate enough to have a whole crew working on it. I have great equipment, all these people who are really passionate about it, and I'm really grateful.
Moonchild is like a character study about this guy who's trying to get his game made. This takes place back in 1993. So over time, he slowly goes crazy trying to get his dream project being made until the climax where he loses it.
But we are still left with the question, why should you join the film program classes?
For one thing, it's an opportunity for you to use professional grade equipment and facilities that are amazing without having to pay for it. So you get to experiment with all kinds of different equipment and figure out what really suits your needs as a film director or filmmaker. But then in addition to that, it's almost like a shortcut to getting good at it because you have a class and you have teachers that are giving you feedback and through critique. Critique is a way to kind of shortcut learning what is working and what isn't. And if you're doing it on your own, it's a lot harder. So what I've been doing just with my classes is having a film screening kind of thing where everybody comes in, they invite mom and dad and, and friends and family. And we have been hosting it in the Craig Auditorium, having the popcorn machine. And I usually will bring out pizza. And it's sort of a fun, casual night of just like screening the films from the Film and Media Studies Class 200 and the 275 class. The other thing that I try and do specifically for the Film and Media Studies 275 class is to have a director from industry, either somebody who does documentary work or somebody who does narrative work, will visit the class, depending on, it's a part of like our visiting artist program. And depending on who they are, sometimes they'll even go with them and shoot. I've had them do that in the past, but they do always come and at least present a little bit about industry and their work, and it's a great opportunity for students to be able to interact and learn from someone who is out there working in the field.
Just recently, Emmy Award nominated filmmaker Dan Tapster sat down with the FMS 275 students and answered some questions we had and gave us some advice for the industry.
The other things that we are doing is we're looking at starting our student club, which is a film and photo kind of club. Again, planning to do this now in coordination with journalism. Part of with the student club that we're working on, bringing back and revamping, is the plan to take that group, like a weekend kind of thing, to the film festival that happens every year in Columbia called the True False Film Festival. So I think that'd be a really exciting thing for students to get to do.
But overall, is the film program worth it, and would they recommend students to taking a film class?
I would, but I would urge them not to get their expectations out of order. Especially, you think you have an idea of the class when you go into it, but really you don't. There's a whole lot of floating values around when it comes to filmmaking, and FMS 275 is no different. It changes with every class, I believe, so I would just suggest don't get your expectations too in order.
Why not? They give you a lot of equipment, they give you your own sense of like independence, and if you're interested in filmmaking in any like sense, you should totally like check it out.
Some people, they're scared of cameras and gear and maybe a little afraid of software and editing, but for certain, no matter what people's majors are or anything, I think we all like to go to the movies. So like, especially I think that Film and Media Studies 100 class is just a cool elective for anyone to take, because you're just learning so much about films.